The tragic death of Aleka Simmons on August 1st, 2019, is as painful as it could be. In Lithonia, Georgia, Simmons' life was taken by her boyfriend, Otis Dennis Walker, in a senseless act of violence that not only ended her life, but also left a lasting impact on the community. What makes this case even more worrying is the series of warning signs that preceded her death. Aleka had reached out for help multiple times, contacting 911 on several occasions to express her fear for her safety. But that wasn't the sad part. This supposed boyfriend was bailed by Aleka only to kill her weeks later. Join us as we look at the tragic ending of this wonderful soul, all in the name of love. Aleka Simmons was a kind, loving, and bright young woman who cared deeply about everyone around her. Aleka grew up in a community where family and faith were very important. Even as a child, she was known for her gentle nature and a smile that could light up a room. Her neighbors, friends, and family always spoke warmly of her kind heart and willingness to help others. She had a special nickname, Tata, which her family and friends used with affection. Her father, John, often said that her laugh was like a bright song that could fill any space with joy. Her brothers, Joshua, Hakeem, Roland, and Stan, remembered her as the spark that brought energy and fun to every family gathering. Even her cousin Dion would call her on random days just to ask if she was okay, because she always cared about everyone around her. Aleka went to North Clayton High School, and later she studied at Georgia State University. Even though she had many challenges in life, she dreamed big. She wanted to build a better future for herself and her child. She worked hard and never stopped believing that there could be a brighter tomorrow. On social media, Aleka showed her true self. She shared funny dance videos, thoughtful messages, and honest reflections. In one of her final posts, she wrote, "Even thankful for life, no matter how hard life may seem." These words, meant to inspire hope, hide a darker truth. Beneath her bright posts lay the pain of a life marked by struggle and hurt. Aleka also worked as a performer at a place called Folly's Strip Club. She was proud of her work and handled it with professionalism and determination. Many people looked up to her because she was not afraid to be herself, no matter what others thought. She knew that life was not always easy, but she always tried to find a way to smile. For those who knew her well, Aleka was not just a cheerful social media star. She was a caring mother, a brave friend, and a determined young woman trying to build a safe life. Her friends, like Ashley Hill, often noticed her strong will. Ashley remembered how Aleka used to stand up for what was right and never let anyone push her around. But there was one part of Aleka's life that many did not see, a secret that grew darker with time. As time passed by, Aleka fell in love with a man named Otis Dennis Walker. At first, Otis seemed kind and charming. He was older than her by 5 years and came into her life with promises of a happy future. When they met, friends thought that Otis was a perfect match for Aleka. He would surprise her with small gifts, send loving messages, and make her feel special. His attentions made her feel loved, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. However, slowly, things started to change. Otis began to act in a way that was not kind at all. He started to check on Aleka very often. He would call her many times during the day, even when she was busy at work. Sometimes, he would come to her workplace without telling her. At first, these actions might have looked like care, but soon, they became signs of control. When someone loves another person, they want the best for them. But when love turns into control, it makes the other person feel trapped. Otis began to ask too many questions about who Aleka was talking to. He wanted to know every detail of her life. His love soon turned into a way to keep her close, always watching her every move. But as time went by, the signs of trouble grew clearer. Otis's behavior became more and more controlling. He began to stop her from spending time with her family and friends. He told her that he was the only one who truly cared about her. Slowly, Aleka began to lose her support system. The bright light that once shone in her smile started to dim. Despite the warning signs, Aleka kept trying to make the relationship work. She clung to the hope that things would improve. Her social media posts, once full of fun and laughter, began to change. While she still posted funny videos and snapshots of happy moments, there were also hints of sadness. Friends noticed that her posts became less frequent and that her smile was not as bright as before. Many of us see only the good moments in someone's life. We see the happy pictures and the kind words. But sometimes, behind these moments, there is a hidden pain. Aleka's story gives us the picture that even when everything seems fine, there can be deep wounds inside that no one else sees. At the same time, Aleka's life was full of hope. Even as her world began to crumble, she never stopped dreaming of a better future. She planned to continue her education, to provide for her child, and to keep showing the world her true, authentic self. Her determination was inspiring. Even when life was hard, she was determined to find a reason to smile. Today, we share Aleka's story to remind everyone to look closer at the signs of control and abuse. It is important to listen when someone says they are afraid, even if their face shows a smile. We must be kind and caring, and we must act quickly when we see a friend or family member in trouble. Aleka's memory lives on in the stories and hearts of those who loved her. Her bright laugh, her kind words, and her determined spirit are not forgotten. Even though her life ended in great sadness, her story has the power to save others. It teaches us that we must never ignore the small signs of danger and that love should never come with control. Otis's continued behavior grew more demanding every day. He began to question everything she did. He made Aleka feel as if she was never truly free. Instead of being a loving partner, Otis started to feel like a jailer who kept a close watch on his prisoner. However, hope turned into confusion and fear as Otis's actions escalated. On many days, friends saw Aleka's smile fade. The once vibrant and funny dance videos were replaced by posts that barely showed a glimmer of her old light. Instead, there were long pauses between updates, and the brightness in her eyes seemed to dim a little more with each passing day. Things took a dangerous turn when Otis began to physically hurt Aleka. It was not just the harsh words or the constant watching anymore. There were times when he grabbed her, pushed her, or held her tightly against her will. These were not isolated moments, but part of a cycle that repeated itself over and over. Each time, Aleka hoped it would be the last time. Each time she believed his apologies and promises that he would change. One day, the situation reached a critical point. In public, on a day that seemed like any other, people witnessed Otis dragging Aleka. His actions were so bold that police officers were called, and he was arrested on the spot for assault. For a brief moment, it seemed like the law might protect Aleka, but instead of being a wake-up call to finally break free, it only deepened the dangerous bond between them. Even after his arrest, Aleka's love for Otis remained. She even helped him after his arrest, showing that her heart was torn between love and fear. Friends found it hard to understand how she could still care for someone who hurt her so much. But Otis was skilled at mixing apologies with promises of change. He called her often from the holding cell, saying things like, "I am sorry, my love. I promise I will change for you." His words, though soothing, were part of a trap that slowly kept her bound to him. As time moved on, the situation became more dangerous. Otis started controlling more than just her phone calls or her visits to family. He began to demand that she spend most of her time with him. He made sure that she would often be at his mother's house, a place that slowly turned from a safe haven to a trap. The home, once filled with family and warmth, became a stage for secret arguments and quiet warnings. Aleka tried to balance her life between her work, her child, and her relationship with Otis, but the heavy burden of his control was impossible to bear. Friends and co-workers started to see changes. She would excuse away small bruises or sudden changes in her routine with simple words like, "I'm just tired," or "It's nothing serious." But those who truly cared for her knew these were signs of something much darker. One evening, tension grew in the home of Otis's mother. The atmosphere was heavy, filled with quiet anger and fear. Aleka's heart pounded as she tried to keep her mind on something else, but the constant reminders of her confinement made it impossible. Every sound, every shout, sent chills down her spine. That night, things got bad in a way no one could have foreseen. In the dark hours before dawn, Aleka made a desperate call to 911. Her voice, trembling and full of fear, was captured on the emergency call recording. In that call, she said, "This is Aleka Simmons. If anything happens to me? Her voice trailed off as a heated argument could be heard in the background. She pleaded, "Are you threatening me? Are you going to kill me?" Her words were a cry for help, a final hope that someone might hear her before it was too late. As the night wore on, the events inside that home grew more intense. A sudden gunshot shattered the quiet, a sound that would forever haunt those who heard it. The shot came unexpectedly, turning the tense atmosphere into one of shock and horror. In that single moment, everything changed. Aleka was fatally wounded, and the life that had once been so full of hope was extinguished in an instant. The chaos that followed was overwhelming. Otis, who had become so deeply entwined in Aleka's life, fled into the darkness. Neighbors, family members, and friends were left in a state of shock and disbelief. How could something so tragic come from a life that had once been filled with laughter and dreams? The police soon arrived at the scene, and a manhunt began. Otis's escape turned into a tense chase, with officers searching every corner of the neighborhood. The community, once a place of calm, was now filled with fear and uncertainty. People locked their doors and watched the skies, hoping for safety. Every sound was a reminder of the terror that had unfolded that night. Her story, though full of darkness, sparked conversations about how to recognize the signs of an abusive relationship. It raised questions about how a person who seemed so bright on the outside could be trapped in such a dangerous cycle. Friends and family began to share their own experiences, hoping that by speaking out, they could help someone else avoid the same fate. Aleka's tragic experience also led to changes in how police and communities respond to domestic violence calls. People demanded better training for officers, more support for victims, and a faster response when there is a sign of danger. Now, the community was left to pick up the pieces. The loss of Aleka Simmons was deeply felt by everyone who knew her, and her memory became a call to action. Her friends, family, and even strangers, inspired by her story, started working together to help others in similar situations. They created support networks, set up shelters, and spoke out against the silence that often surrounds domestic violence. When the gunshot rang out that fateful night, everything changed forever. Aleka Simmons' life was gone, leaving a deep emptiness in the hearts of her family and friends. The news of her death spread quickly, and the small community that once enjoyed her cheerful dance videos now mourned the loss of a young woman whose future had been stolen. The police immediately launched a manhunt for Otis Dennis Walker. They knew he was armed and dangerous. Officers searched throughout the night, checking homes, streets, and abandoned buildings. The tension in the community was palpable. Neighbors were afraid to leave their homes, fearing Otis might still be lurking nearby. For days, the search continued. Otis's face was plastered on every news channel and social media platform, with authorities urging anyone with information to come forward. People were shocked that the man they saw in Aleka's happy videos, the man who smiled and posed beside her, was now the subject of a massive police chase. As the hunt stretched into its second day, people began sharing their thoughts about the tragedy. Some expressed anger at the system, saying more should have been done to protect Aleka. Others pointed to the moments leading up to her death, questioning why the warning signs weren't enough to save her. On the third day, the police finally caught a break. Tips from the public led officers to a house on the outskirts of the city where Otis was believed to be hiding. As the officers approached the house, the tension was high. They surrounded the property, prepared for anything. After hours of negotiation and careful planning, Otis was captured without further violence. His arrest brought a mix of relief and sorrow. Aleka's family and friends were glad he could no longer hurt anyone, but the pain of losing Aleka was still fresh. As Otis was led away in handcuffs, the community breathed a collective sigh of relief, but the journey for justice had just begun. The trial that followed was long and emotional. Aleka's loved ones sat in the courtroom, listening to details of her final moments. Prosecutors painted a picture of a man consumed by jealousy and control, a man who had let his anger destroy the woman he claimed to love. Otis's defense attorneys tried to argue that the shooting was not planned, but the evidence spoke louder than words. The most chilling piece of evidence was the 911 call Aleka had made that night. Her voice, filled with fear, echoed through the courtroom. "Are you going to kill me?" she had asked him. Those words left an indelible mark on everyone who heard them. It was clear that Aleka knew her life was in danger, and her call for help became a symbol of her bravery in her final moments. The trial began with many people coming together to see justice done. The courtroom was filled with community members, family representatives, and legal professionals who were all seeking answers. The prosecutors presented all the evidence that had been collected. They explained the timeline of the night and how each piece of evidence connected to the suspect. The forensic reports were read out in court, and experts explained in simple terms what the physical evidence meant in relation to the events of that night. The defense team, on the other side, argued their perspective. They questioned the reliability of some of the witness testimonies and asked for more clarity regarding certain pieces of evidence. The defense requested that the court examine every detail carefully. They argued that there might be alternative explanations for the evidence that was presented. The judge listened to both sides very carefully, ensuring that all the rules of law were followed. Throughout the trial, the court sessions were filled with testimony from many individuals. Several police officers came forward to explain the steps they had taken during the investigation. Forensic experts also took the stand to explain how the evidence was collected and analyzed. Witnesses from the neighborhood testified about what they had seen and how they had heard noises on the night in question. Each testimony added another piece to the puzzle of what had happened. The jury deliberated for hours, and when the verdict was read, the room was silent. Otis was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole plus 65 additional years. Justice, in the legal sense, had been served. But for those who loved Aleka, the verdict was only a small comfort. No sentence could bring her back or fill the void her absence had left. In the weeks and months following the trial, Aleka's story became a rallying cry for change. Her friends and family started a foundation in her name, dedicated to helping victims of domestic violence. They worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the warning signs of abuse and the resources available to those in need. Social media also played a role in keeping Aleka's memory alive. Her videos, once a source of joy and entertainment, were now reminders of a life cut short. People from all over the world shared her story, using it as a way to start conversations about the hidden struggles many people face. The tragedy also sparked changes in the local police department. Officers received better training on how to handle domestic violence cases and how to respond to warning signs more effectively. Programs were put in place to ensure that victims of abuse had access to support and protection when they needed it most. For Aleka's family, the pain of losing her never truly went away. Her mother often spoke about her daughter's dreams and how much she loved life. Aleka was a light, she said in an interview. She was kind, funny, and full of hope. She didn't deserve this. Her words touched the hearts of many. Aleka's story also inspired other survivors of abuse to speak out. Women and men who had been trapped in similar situations found the courage to seek help, knowing they were not alone. Shelters and hotlines reported an increase in calls, a sign that people were beginning to take action to protect themselves and their loved ones. Despite the darkness of her final days, Aleka's legacy became one of hope and strength. Her life may have been cut short, but her story continues to save others. Her friends and family believe that Aleka would be proud of the impact she has made, even in her absence. The community that once mourned her loss has since transformed into a beacon of support and resilience. People came together to create safe spaces for those in need, ensuring that no one else would suffer in silence. Schools and community centers held workshops on recognizing the signs of abuse, and local leaders worked to improve resources for victims. As we reflect on her life, there is importance in listening to those around us, of offering help when we see someone in need, and of creating a world where everyone feels safe and valued. Aleka's light may no longer shine in this world, but her legacy ensures that her spirit will never be forgotten. Thank you for watching our video. Share your thoughts with us in the comments section, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember to hit the notification bell for more videos.